April 14, 1943. 03:17 hours, the North Sea. A bitter wind cuts through the salt-slicked air, whipping against the decks of a small convoy of British fishing vessels converted for intelligence work. You can almost taste the brine, feel the shudder of each wave as it slams into the hull, rocking the men like rag dolls. Above them, the moonlight shimmers on the water's surface, glinting off shapes that aren't quite right, round, pocked, silent, yet moving. Lieutenant Commander Geoffrey Harwood stands rigid on the bridge of HMS Aegis, binoculars pressed to his eyes. Every nerve in his body screams that something is out there. And he is right, but not in the way anyone expects. The German U-boats prowling beneath the waves, hungry and methodical, will never see this coming. These aren't ordinary ships. Inflatable decoys, nicknamed paper boats by the men who launched them, drift across the cold, dark sea. Crafted from rubber and canvas, each vessel is rigged with rudimentary radar reflectors and fake engine noises. To the sonar operators aboard the U-boats, these harmless floaters register as fully armed, fully operational merchant ships, an entire convoy ripe for the taking. Harwood glances down at his log, fingers trembling despite the gloves. The code is simple: release at 03:20, every second counts. Steady, he whispers. Around him, sailors check their lines, their breath fogging in the icy air. They know the stakes. Out there, the Germans are hunters, but tonight, the hunters are about to become the hunted. Meanwhile, hundreds of feet below, Captain Lieutenant Fritz Keller peers through the periscope of U-562. The sonar hum vibrates through the metal hull. He spots the conv, or what he thinks is a convoy. Every trained instinct screams attack, but something feels off. The movement is almost too predictable, the formation too neat. His brow furrows, but pride and duty push him forward. Orders are clear: strike before dawn. The first torpedoes are loaded. Engines hum. Time seems to slow. On deck, Harwood signals to the release crew. The decoys slip silently into the water. Inflatable hulls drift away, bouncing in the waves, their radar signatures mimicking real ships as planned. And in the shadowed depths, the U-boats approach, unaware that every decision they make now will lead to disaster. Then, as if the night itself is holding its breath, the first sonar blips, false echoes dance across the German screens. Keller squints, puzzled. He nudges his lieutenant. Looks like a full conv, he mutters. But the rhythm, the spacing, the almost mechanical perfection of it all, it doesn't feel real. And that's when the trap begins to close. The order comes quietly inside U-562. Flood tubes 1 and 2. Valves hiss open. The submarine vibrates as compressed air fills the torpedo chambers. Red indicator lights glow dimly, painting the crew in shadows. Captain Lieutenant Fritz Keller keeps his eye glued to the periscope, tracking the nearest target, an apparent merchant vessel riding low in the water, slow, heavy, vulnerable. Exactly the kind of ship BDU reports promised him. Outside, the North Sea remains deceptively calm. The inflatable decoys drift obediently, their rubber hulls flexing with each wave. Hidden inside their frames, crude metal reflectors catch and scatter German radar pulses. To Keller's instruments, they look solid, real, profitable. Range, Keller asks. 800 meters and closing. He nods once, no hesitation, no second thoughts. Fire! The torpedo leaves the tube with a violent shudder, slicing into the dark water. Seconds later, a second follows. The crew holds its breath, counting silently. 1, 2, 3. Nothing. No explosion, no fireball ripping open a hull, no rising plume of debris. Keller stiffens. He swings the periscope again, scanning the convoy. The target is still there, floating, intact. What? Someone whispers. A second U-boat, U-221, opens fire from a different angle. Maury torpedoes streak upward toward the decoys. Still nothing. The weapons pass underneath, detonating harmlessly in the distance or sinking uselessly into the seabed. Confusion ripples through the German wolfpack. This is impossible. Torpedoes do not simply miss at these ranges. Keller feels a prickle of unease crawl up his spine. He adjusts depth, bringing U-562 slightly higher. Too high, perhaps, but he needs clarity. Then the sonar operator stiffens. Herr Kapitän, multiple contacts, fast, bearing north-northwest. Not merchant ships. Destroyers. The realization hits like ice water. Above the surface, Lieutenant Commander Harwood lowers his binoculars. He has been waiting for this moment. The torpedo launches with a signal, the confirmation that the bait had been taken completely. "Signal the hunters," he orders. A coded transmission crackles across the sea, invisible and lethal. Somewhere beyond the horizon, British destroyers alter course. Engines roar to life. ASDIC operators lean forward, headphones pressed tight, listening for the telltale echoes of steel hulls beneath the waves. The inflatable convoy continues drifting, innocent and untouched. Below, Keller's instincts finally scream loud enough to override pride. Emergency dive, hard to starboard. Too late. The first depth charge detonates nearby, a dull, crushing thud that rattles every bolt and rivet inside U-562. Lights flicker. Men are thrown from their feet. Another explosion follows, closer this time. The sound is not loud so much as it is felt, a pressure wave that squeezes the lungs and shakes the bones. Keller grips the periscope well, knuckles white. He knows this pattern. The British are herding them, pushing the wolf pack inward, forcing them to cluster. A classic kill box. U-221 reports damage, goes silent entirely. On the surface, HMS Vidette and HMS Wanderer tear across the water, cutting tight arcs around the decoys. To any German commander watching from afar, it would look like the British are protecting a convoy. In reality, they are circling sharks. Depth charges rain down in measured sequences, not random, calculated, the kind designed by men who have spent years learning exactly how a U-boat dies. Inside U-562, bulkheads groan. Water begins to seep through a fractured valve. The air smells of oil and sweat and fear. Keller forces himself to breathe evenly. Panic kills faster than explosives down here. But even as he tries to evade, another realization dawns, slow, horrifying, undeniable. There was never a convoy. The ships above are too evenly spaced, too light, too silent, no propeller cavitation, no engine vibrations transmitted through the water. They are chasing ghosts. Decoys, Keller whispers. Above them, the paper boats drift on, unmoving witnesses to the chaos they have unleashed. And the British are not finished. As the destroyers tighten their net, a new signal flashes through Allied channels. Aircraft are inbound, long-range patrol bombers armed with depth charges and flares, ready to turn night into day. For the U-boats trapped below, the sea is no longer a place to hide. It has become a sealed grave. And Keller knows it. The only question now is how many of them will escape before the trap snaps shut completely. 0402 hours. The sky above the North Sea begins to thin from black to a bruised pre-dawn blue. It is the most dangerous time for a U-boat, too light to vanish completely, too dark to see clearly, the worst of both worlds. Inside U-562, the hull creaks like a living thing under stress. Water drips steadily into the bilge now, each drop echoing in the silence between explosions. Captain Lieutenant Fritz Keller stands braced against the chart table, boots slick with condensation, listening to the sea trying to crush his boat flat. Then the sound comes. Not the thunder of depth charges. Something worse. Propellers fast, multiple above them. ASDIC contact confirmed, the sonar operator says, his voice thin. They have us locked. Keller closes his eyes for half a second. That is all the time he allows himself. He knows the British pattern now, tight spirals, overlapping attack runs, forcing submarines deeper, slower, louder. Every evasive maneuver costs battery power. Every meter descended tightens the pressure. Take us down to 160 meters, Keller orders. The diving planes tilt. The boat sinks. The steel hull groans louder, protesting depths it was never meant to hold for long. Above, HMS Vidette races across the surface. Lieutenant Commander Brian Morgan watches the ASDIC screen with practiced calm. The contact below is clear and steady, too steady. the mark of a damaged submarine struggling to maneuver. "Hold her steady," Morgan says. "We're not rushing this." Depth charges roll off the stern in a precise pattern, 4, then 6, then 8. The explosions march closer. Inside U-562, lights fail completely. Emergency lamps flicker on, bathing the compartment in dull red. A pipe bursts. Seawater sprays across the control room. Men scramble to contain it, hands slipping, boots sliding, hearts pounding. Another explosion. This one is different. The shockwave slams the submarine sideways, throwing Keller against the bulkhead. A sharp crack echoes through the hull, metal deforming under pressure. Somewhere aft, a man screams. "Report," Keller shouts. "Rudder jammed. Battery compartment flooding. We are losing depth control." The words pile on top of each other, each worse than the last. Keller understands the math instantly. They cannot surface. The destroyers will cut them apart with gunfire. They cannot dive much deeper. The hull will fail, and they cannot outrun what is above them. For the first time since he took command, Keller allows himself to think the unthinkable. Surrender. But before he can speak, another sound intrudes, a distant, rhythmic thump from the sky. Aircraft engines. Above the kill zone, RAF Coastal Command Liberators arrive, flares already dropping. The sea erupts in harsh white light. Shadows flee. Every ripple becomes visible. From the air, the convoy is revealed for what it truly is. Rubber hulls, canvas seams, fake masts bobbing uselessly on the waves. Paper boats. British aircrews stare down in disbelief for only a moment before refocusing. The real targets are below. Dark oil slicks begin to spread across the surface, thin, rainbow sheens betraying wounded submarines trying desperately to hide. HMS Wanderer signals a confirmed hit. U-89 has broken apart at depth. No survivors. U-221 surfaces briefly, bow rising from the water like a wounded animal. Gun crews open fire instantly. The submarine disappears again in a cloud of spray, smoke, and debris. This time, it does not come back up. Inside U-562, Keller feels the boat losing buoyancy. The angle steepens, the bow dips. "Blow ballast," he orders. Compressed air roars through the tanks. For a heartbeat, it feels like it might work. The descent slows. Then another depth charge detonates directly beneath them. The deck buckles, instruments shatter. A torrent of freezing seawater crashes through a ruptured seam. Men are knocked flat. The red lights go out, plunging the compartment into darkness, broken only by sparks and emergency glow sticks. Keller knows it is over. He grabs the ladder toward the forward compartment, shouting orders that no longer matter. Close hatches, secure valves, hold on. The sea does not care about orders. As U-562 begins its final descent, Keller understands the cruel elegance of the trap. No massive fleet, no grand battle, just cheap decoys, patience, and perfect timing. The hunters never fired the killing blow at the bait. They waited for the wolves to reveal themselves. Above, the paper boats drift silently on the waves, untouched, as the sea below claims another submarine. And for the first time in months, German command will face a chilling truth. The North Sea is no longer theirs. April 14, 1943, 06:11 hours. The sun rises reluctantly over the North Sea, as if unsure it wants to reveal what the night has done. Pale light spills across the waves, catching on floating wreckage and long streaks of oil that glimmer like bruises on the water's skin. The sea smells wrong this morning, thick, metallic, heavy with fuel and death. British destroyers idle in wide arcs, their engines reduced to a low, patient thrum. Sailors line the rails, eyes scanning the surface, searching for movement that will never come. No periscopes break the waves, no hatches open, no hands reach up from the cold. Below them, the sea has already claimed everything. On the bridge of HMS Vidette, Lieutenant Commander Brian Morgan watches the final ASDIC sweeps scroll across the screen. The operator shakes his head slowly. "Nothing left, sir." Morgan removes his headphones and exhales. He has hunted submarines for years. He knows what silence like this means. Somewhere beneath their keel, pressure-crushed steel lies twisted beyond recognition. Compartments collapsed. Valves frozen open. Men who had been alive only hours earlier now sealed forever in black water. He turns toward the decoys. They drift quietly, absurdly intact. Inflatable hulls rise and fall with the swell, untouched by gunfire, unmarked by shrapnel. One still carries a mock identification number painted slightly crooked along its side. Another tilts lazily, a fake mast swaying, as if mocking the destruction beneath it. A deckhand mutters under his breath, "Bloody hell." Lieutenant Commander Jeffrey Harwood steps beside him. He does not smile. He does not celebrate. His eyes remain fixed on the water. "They trusted their instruments," Harwood says, "same as we hoped." By mid-morning, coded signals race across secure channels. Admiralty clerks transcribe the reports with steady hands, but the weight of the words settles heavily into the underground rooms beneath London. 3 U-boats destroyed, 1 missing, no Allied losses, enemy engaged false convoy. The phrase is underlined twice. Admiral Sir Dudley Pound reads the summary in silence, then passes it to his deputy. Around the table, seasoned naval officers exchange glances, not of triumph, but of realization. "This wasn't just a successful hunt," one of them says quietly, "this was psychological." And that is what alarms them most. Across the channel, at Kerneval near Lorient, Admiral Karl Dönitz receives the same information stripped of British optimism and wrapped in German disbelief. His staff delivers the report in fragments: broken radio transmissions, incomplete logs, no survivor accounts. No explanations. Dönitz stares at the wall map, at the small metal markers representing boats that will never return to port. For years, he has refined the Wolfpack doctrine into something ruthless and efficient. It is built on confidence, confidence in detection, confidence in surprise, confidence in overwhelming force. This operation strikes at all 3. "They attacked phantoms," Dönitz says flatly. No one contradicts him. Radar returns that should not exist, sonar contacts without propeller noise, torpedoes fired at targets that do not burn or sink, British destroyers already positioned, aircraft arriving with terrifying precision. The conclusion is unavoidable. The British are no longer reacting to U-boat attacks. They are shaping them. Within days, BDU issues revised orders. Verification periods are extended. Commanders are told to observe longer, approach more cautiously, confirm targets through multiple instruments. Aggression gives way to hesitation. But submarine warfare does not reward hesitation. Convoys that once would have been attacked are now allowed to pass. Wolfpacks arrive late or not at all. Some commanders break formation entirely, unwilling to risk being lured into another invisible trap. Morale suffers. Whispers spread through the U-boat arm about rubber ships, about decoys that bleed oil when hit, about boats that vanish without ever seeing the enemy. Crews grow tense. Sleep becomes shallow. Every sonar ping feels like bait. Meanwhile, British planners quietly press their advantage. The decoy program expands under deeper layers of secrecy. Engineers improve radar reflectors to mimic different ship classes. Acoustic specialists refine sound generators to simulate engine cavitation at varying speeds. Deployment zones widen from the North Sea into the Atlantic approaches. The brilliance of the system lies in its simplicity. A single inflatable decoy costs less than a torpedo. A U-boat represents years of construction, scarce materials, and a trained crew that cannot be replaced. The mathematics of war begin to shift. By May 1943, U-boat losses reach catastrophic levels. Dönitz will later call it the Black Month. Sinkings fall sharply, Allied shipping losses decline, The Atlantic supply line, once strangled, begins to breathe again. Howard's role remains classified. No headlines, no medals pinned in public ceremonies. Official records reduce the operation to vague phrasing and technical jargon. But the impact is real. Beneath the North Sea, the wrecks of multiple submarines lie crushed and silent, their steel hulls folded inward by pressure and fate. They are unmarked grave, resting far from any battlefield monument. They mark the moment when Germany's deadliest naval weapon began to lose its edge. The wolves are still out there, still dangerous, still hunting. But now, every shadow might be a lie. Every convoy could be nothing at all. And the sea, once their greatest ally, has become a place of doubt.